The Eastham Conservation Commission will hold a remote public meeting on Tuesday, March 25th, 2025 at 6 p.m. pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, MGL Chapter 30A, Sections 18 to 25, Open Meeting Law, Chapter 1, MGL Chapter 131, Section 40, Wetlands Protection Act, and Chapter 155 of the Code of the Town of Eastham Wetland Protection Bylaw. This meeting is being broadcast on Public Access Channel 8 and is available on the Eastham website at www.eastham-ma.gov. Please remain mute unless it is your turn to speak, and please let the chair know if you will be recording the meeting. I'm going to take attendance and then we'll begin. Janet Benjamins.
Here.
Joanne Cossett will not be joining us tonight. Greg Douglas is on his way.
I'm here.
Oh, you're here?
Yep.
Okay. Greg is here. Mike Harnett. I couldn't hear you. Are you? Oh, hold on. My earpods turned off. Give me 1 second. Okay. No, I'm not hearing anybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Now I got you all.
I can hear you a lot better now.
Okay, I lost you all for a minute. So Chuck Wagner and Karen Strauss, I am here. Okay. So first on our agenda, we have a public comment period. Is there anybody who wishes to speak about something that is not on tonight's agenda? I see nobody. Okay. First up, after the fact administrative review filed by Harold Tully. Applicant proposes to replace retaining wall and install a cobblestone walkway at property located at 31 Longstreet Lane, map 10, parcel 335A. And this was, is Harold Tully here?
Yes, I'm here. Good evening.
Okay. Good evening. So I want to thank you for following up on this very quickly after our last meeting. And I want to ask if the commission has any questions on this filing. Okay, so if we might have a vote to approve, a motion to approve.
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Janet?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Mike? I can't hear you, Mike. Oh, okay. And Chuck?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Okay, and now we have the second one. Administrative review filed by Harold Tully. Applicant proposes to replace rotted retaining wall, remove 3 trees, finalize cobblestone walkways, and plant native plants at property located at 31 Longstreet Lane, map 10, parcel 335A. And I know some of you were out there for a site visit, so why don't we start with Janet?
Yes, we met with Mr. Tully this morning. He was kind enough to come out and explain things to us and talk about what he had done and what he hoped to do. And the one concern I had, and we talked about this, was keeping the trees if possible. And he had already stated that he wanted to do that. It looks questionable, but he also stated that he would be replacing those trees if he couldn't replace the wall and keep the trees.
As I already have said this morning, I'm trying to do so, but also I found out, and this is a thing I found out after the trees were planted. I planted them. What it is, right where the trees are, the gas line comes in. And supposedly there shouldn't be any bigger trees. Well, they were here 10 years now and they were doing good. If I can't keep it, I will, but it's not that I want to get the fire department out here just because my gas line broke.
Mhm.
And this is right on the side where the retaining wall is, plus the 3 trees. So I will try my very best, as a promise.
Okay. So you also are proposing to plant 13 cedar trees as mitigation?
Not only cedar, it's a mixture of that what Alex recommended, cedar trees and that switchgrass. It's just for the privacy. There's a public path. We deeded rights from the neighbors around. And I would like to plant not only cedar trees, that would be too much, but a mixture of both of them to create a little bit privacy in my living room.
Everybody wants a little privacy in their living room.
There you go.
Yeah. Are you planning on planting the trees yourself, or
Yes.
you're going to have some?
Yes. I got 2 strong hands, 2 strong arms. I should be able to do though.
Okay. Any questions, comments from the commission? Okay, so if we might have a motion to approve this with a 24-hour work notice to the Conservation Department. That means you have to let them know when you're about to start. That material is staged in the driveway, no hardeners or stone dust will be used, and temporary irrigation to be allowed for the plantings for a year.
Okay.
Somebody wants to make that motion?
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second,
Okay, Mike? No. Is your microphone not working? Okay, so let the record show Mike held up his thumb to vote yes. Janet,
yes,
Chuck,
Yes.
Ray,
Yes.
and I am a yes. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Okay, next we have a continuation of notice of intent filed by Russell Sandbloom. Applicant proposes truck access to Shellfish Grant B29 located at 650 South Sunken Meadow Road, map 01, parcel 97A. And Alex, you want to speak?
Yeah, I'll just update the commission that Russ was able to get temporary access out to his grants after the last meeting. And his application for, his NOI remains ongoing. So we'll continue this again to some point in the future. I don't have a date set currently, so.
Okay. So if we might have a motion to continue this matter indefinitely.
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay, Janet,
yes,
Chuck,
Yes.
Ray,
Yes.
Mike? Again, Mike put his thumb up to vote yes, and I am a yes. Okay, next up we have is a continuation of notice of intent filed by Josephine Fellers Realty Trust. Applicant proposes relocating the existing dwelling onto a new foundation outside the 100-foot buffer zone, remove existing septic tank, pump basin, and abandoned cesspools, replace the existing beach access stairs, and restore disturbed areas with native plants at property located at 365 Higgins Road, map 04, parcel 456A. And at the last meeting, the commission had requested additional canopy trees and a succession plan. And I do want to thank you for getting us that information. So, Stephanie, are you up?
Well, I'll let Caitlin describe the revised plan that Blue Flag submitted.
Great. Good evening, everyone. Caitlin Camilleri with Blue Flax Design. Thank you for letting us resubmit that revised plan with those changes. On our updated plan and land management plan, we added 21 1-gallon native trees to the restoration area. Those include pitch pine, eastern red cedar, and white oak. We increased our shrub quantity by about 20 shrubs for a total 226 shrubs to be planted in the restoration area. And we clarified the restoration process by stating that we will restore the area disturbed for the house relocation with appropriate native vegetation suitable to the site's conditions. And the area will be monitored for invasive species and allowed to succeed into a maritime shrubland pitch pine oak community. I'm happy to answer questions you might have about that.
So I do not have any additional questions, but I do want to thank you for addressing our concerns and for adding some clarity to the filing.
Great, thanks, Karen.
So is there anybody on the commission who has any questions? Janet, did you have something?
Well, no surprise. I'm concerned about the use of the herbicide. I am appreciative of the fact that Blue Flax has come back with a proposal to add the native trees. And I noticed they clustered many of them, as Mike suggested, and placed them pretty much on the sides, as I suggested, but they did add the trees, and I really appreciate that. But I do have an ongoing concern about the herbicide. And the more I read about insects and the enormous numbers that are decreasing, and the same with birds and butterflies and bumblebees, I'm very concerned, so I would prefer no use of the herbicide. Otherwise, I like the plan. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Alex, anything from you?
No additional comments on my end.
Okay. So if we might have a motion to approve the plan as amended with the special conditions for single family dwellings with landscaping.
Move that we approve with the conditions that you described.
Is there a second?
Second?
Okay, Greg,
Yes.
Chuck,
Yes.
Janet,
No,
Mike? Okay, let record show Mike is voting with a thumbs down, and I am a yes. That is 3-2, and the project is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay. All right, so next we have minutes. Wow, we're moving along. So we have minutes for February 25th, 2025. Does anybody have any comments, corrections, etc. on the minutes? Seeing none, if I might have a motion to approve the February 25th, 2025 minutes.
move to approve the minutes for February 25th, 2025.
And is there a second?
Second?
Okay, Greg?
Yes.
Okay, Janet?
Yes,
Mike? Mike is showing a thumbs up. Chuck,
Yes.
and I am a yes. Okay, and then we have violations. Alex, any updates?
Not too many. We do what appears to be a new violation off Goody Hallett. I'm still in the process of contacting the property owners, so you can expect more of an update from me regarding that violation at our next meeting.
Okay, and I probably should have warned you, I was going to ask any updates on the Del Gissy situation?
Still ongoing. That's really the only update that I have at the moment. I could certainly touch base with Jackie again and have a conversation with her as far as to determine kind of what's the end goal here, if there is one.
The select board voted last night to include the tax taking on the town warrant for that
Okay.
property.
All right.
Okay, next liaison report. I won't ask Mike. Janet, anything? Okay, and then for Open Space Committee, I had it. Okay, Open Space Committee, the work is continuing on the Open Space and Recreation Plan. The group that's working on that is currently developing a community survey that will go out to the public. Sandy Meadow, the survey has been done for NHESP and the documents submitted, so we're waiting on them. And work is still going on developing the trailhead sign for the property. What else is going on? There's now a subgroup for the Open Space Committee that's looking at priority parcels, land acquisition, and public outreach strategy to property owners there. And the committee has a new member, Andrew Shearer, who is also the co-chair of the Recycling Committee. The Strategic Planning Committee approved a summary of the new strategic plan to be included in the warrant for town meeting, and we're circling in on the end of the plan that we hope to have in place at the beginning of July. I should also say the next meeting of the Open Space Committee is April 23rd, which is a week later than our normal meeting time, and the Strategic Planning Committee will be meeting on April 12th. Okay, let's see. Education and training updates. I know that Janet and Greg were at this floodplain meeting last week. Do either of you want to give us a little update on that?
This is Greg. The meeting was good. I enjoyed it. They provide a lot of information about floodplain management, and specifically with respect to FEMA and how you designated the various zones, like the V and the A, things that I wasn't as aware of, and also how you calculate damages when we have our first hurricane. It's very good tools to assess the site, and also things that you can do to minimize damage during these types of weather events. So I enjoyed it.
Anything that stands out that we might learn from?
I think you probably knew most of it. It was more, to be frank, I mean, the A and the V zone and when you can build a foundation and all kinds of things like that I wasn't as aware of.
I'm glad it was a good experience then. Okay. Any other education or training updates from anybody? No? Okay, and then other discussion. So we have with us, the library has a outdoor play area that they're proposing, and we have the Melanie McKenzie here to talk about it with us. Hi and welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. So just to give you all a little bit of context about this project, we received a memorial donation last spring, and we decided that we wanted to use this to enhance our services and offerings for youth at the library. One thing that we've been looking for is to sort of increase the sort of functionality of the backyard at the library. So we were looking to acquire some natural material pieces of play equipment to encourage creative play in the back of the library without inhibiting our open space that we use for programs and things like that. So I spoke with Alex and we sort of discussed some of the potential layout of the pieces that I was thinking of, sort of well outside the 100-foot span between the pond and where we're thinking of placing the furniture. Nothing would be so permanent that it couldn't be moved, but we hopefully you saw from my example that we're looking to have a couple of like log materials, some round natural pieces. So those would obviously be a little bit mobile if a child or someone were to really kind of go at it. So we're looking to put in some stabilizers that would come from the company as well and speak to DPW about entrenching the materials slightly so that there is, you know, minimal ability for those pieces to move without being intentionally relocated. The one thing I really wanted to draw attention to is the mud kitchen. That is a piece of equipment that will have the ability to have a hose hookup with a water pump to allow for some actual water play with the natural landscape behind the library. And we're looking to place that relatively close to kind of a natural drainage area in the backyard of the library so that if it were to get a little bit kind of muddy in that area, it would just kind of drain naturally into that instead of creating a problem with any of the sort of landscaping we have a little bit closer to the building and creating some erosion there. The last piece that we have is a labyrinth, a stone labyrinth that will be set into the earth behind the library. It's the one I'm looking at is about 9 feet in diameter. And that would be, you know, something just to kind of encourage children to sort of play with the maze, but it will also be visually interesting for the view looking out over the pond from the main level of the library as well. Yeah, that's kind of it.
It looks like a lot of fun, and who doesn't love a mud sink?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and any questions or comments from the commission? Alex?
I'll just update the commission. You know, this project is between the 50 and the 100 and really will have minimal impact on the buffer zone. So this is a project that I've issued an administrative review for, but I wanted to keep the commission updated kind of on this project, which is why we had Melanie with us tonight. So thank you, Melanie, for your time.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, next we have 29 Sherwood Drive and Christoph Notzletti, is that pronounced correctly?
Netzley.
Netzley, okay. And you sent us a letter asking if you could not nourish this year. If you want to just explain it briefly to us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the time tonight. I'm joined by my sister, who also owns the cottage. This cottage was purchased, just brief history, in 1996 by my parents, who took care of it. My father passed away in 2019, so my sister and I inherited it, along with all the responsibilities of having a house on the beach, which includes the sand nourishment. So in 2011, my father worked with the Woods Hole Group and had a rock revetment placed on the south end of the house, the cottage. Because we're the last cottage on the private beach there, it extends on the town property. And the order of conditions for that permit was to add 425 cubic yards of sand a year, which my dad did religiously, and my sister and I have done as well. Over the past 2 years or so, some things have come up. The cost of sand has gone up quite a bit. It was about $22 a cubic yard. It's now $44. And we just got an estimate of $19,000 to add sand this year. So it's becoming a bit cost prohibitive, but more importantly, I think for tonight, there's just a lot of sand there from what we've added manually. And it looks like just from Mother Nature, we had a sand drift fence that on the property there that's now completely under sand. The stairs that go down to the beach, a lot of them are under sand. So we just feel like there's tons of sand. And before we spent $19,000 to add more, we thought we would look into the permitting on this. reached out to the commission, had some nice conversations with Alex on the phone and email. He suggested we get a coastal engineer to survey the land and come up with an amendment for the permit. Absolutely agree. We've done that. I have an engineer lined up. But we thought we would come here tonight to ask for basically a waiver for this calendar year while we survey the land and work on this amendment to not add sand, just because of how much is there already. And also, it's just becoming cost prohibitive for us. So here we are. I did send some pictures to Alex of what it looked like in 2022 and what it looks like just yesterday. I'm in Minnesota, by the way, but I flew back yesterday. I don't know if he can share those or I can share my screen.
Alex, can you do that?
Yeah, let me share my screen here.
I appreciate it.
Okay. So you said the first two.
There's
that
going to be
show the
two that
fence,
show
yeah.
up, this fence there, yeah. And then basically less than 3 years later.
Let's see. Can everyone see that?
Yep, I got it.
Okay, yeah. So the first two here show the fence. And then
Is
you
that,
said this
is
one.
that this year? The first two are this year?
No, sorry,
Or-
that was April 2022. And then the last two are from not yesterday, 2 days ago. And you can see the fence kind of coming out there.
Okay, so the fence has been doing its job.
Yeah, it's been great. And you know, Sarah and I have no issue. We understand the need for sand. We think there's plenty there to nourish the ecosystem and protect the property like it's supposed to. And we're not against that at all. We just think that while we look to amend the permit, we were hoping to hold off for the year.
So the April 22 pictures are that, when did you nourish that year?
So it has to be done before April 15th. So we use Easy Does It. I think they usually do it in March.
Mm-hmm. So that's a picture once it's after it's been nourished, not after.
Yeah, and actually, sorry.
No,
The reason why I took that picture is because we had it nourished and I flew over there and a lot of it was taken away by a storm.
Mhm.
And then I think I'll have to check again, but it was renourished again in October. At times in the fall, we'll have to add some more sand. Because in the summer when a lot we can't do it.
Okay, I'm just trying to figure out if that picture was taken not too long after you nourished.
Correct.
Okay, so that doesn't necessarily.
I'd have to look at the exact date of when they nourished it, because sometimes they do it in March.
Mhm. So that doesn't necessarily tell us much about any natural accretion. If it was right very soon after you put on 425 cubic yards of sand.
I don't know. I don't follow. I mean, I just feel like naturally.
Well, you
this
took the picture
sand
after you nourished. It would have been more interesting for us to see it before you nourished, because you added sand.
I could check quickly the record on. I'm not exactly sure what date it was nourished, so I'll have to. I can look. I was just looking at my
Okay.
phone, but I can do that.
Because it's
No
it's
problem.
hard to tell from that if it was if it's sand you added or what built up naturally there.
Yep, understood. Sorry.
And I know you haven't nourished yet for this year. You nourished last year in April.
Correct. We were told that this year we could wait until October because it would satisfy the calendar year.
But usually
Because April 15th is the cutoff date for them
you
to
nourish within a
begin
12.
this. Yeah.
Like Alex, would that be right? I think you'd have to do it in.
Yeah,
ahead,
so
Alex.
I mean, I'm just looking back at the records here myself. So you nourished last year in late March, early April. And that was for the last nourishment season, I'll call it. So for this current season, October to April, if you don't nourish before April 15th, my understanding is that you would be not in compliance with the condition for nourishment.
So just so you know, I looked up my Easy Does It record here, and they added sand March 22nd, I think. So
March 22nd of last year, right?
yeah, which is generally the time when they do that. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was for the it's 425.
It's 425 cubic yards. Yep.
Yeah, that's what our records show.
Mhm.
So if nourishment is not done by April 15th of this year, then you would be out of compliance, correct?
I believe so. Sarah, I don't know if you could jump in, because I thought we had a letter saying we could wait until October. I could look that up.
Who is that? Who sent that letter?
Looking it up here.
Greg, you're next after this.
So it said, sorry, this is from a neighbor who was talking to Alex about the renourishment. I think this is Steve Schlesinger. And he said we might be in compliance if we add in October 2025. However, skipping this year would result in a double renourishment requirement next year to compensate. So this is from a conversation with our neighbor and Alex.
So correct. So if your nourishment wasn't done this year, we do require the double nourishment the following year.
Would that,
as far as the October nourishment, I mean, that timeline, that would result in you not being in compliance for your current nourishment. So I don't agree with the statement that you can wait until October.
okay.
I'm gonna let Greg jump in with his question if that's a. Go ahead,
Alex,
Greg.
Alex, did you get a picture of what it looks like today? And could we then compare what today's picture looks like to what it looked like with those fences, so we could see if the height of the sand today relative to those fence posts could be? Because if the sand was equal to those fence posts, that's quite a bit of sand, but I don't think I've seen pictures to make that determination.
Those last two should show that.
Yeah, the last two pictures are current.
Okay, could you put that back up for me, please?
Yeah, according to Christoph. Yeah, let me share my screen again.
But the sand fence collecting sand and the nourishment are separate things.
Oh, I understand. I was just trying to see the height, how high the sand was. How thick is the sand?
So you can see the top of the fence and the post there on the left, kind of.
So
Is
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
What year? What's the date on this picture? Just so we're.
2 days ago. I was just there.
Okay.
So does that represent the top of those fence posts that we saw a year or so ago? I mean,
Yes, sir. Yep.
There. So you're saying that the sand there right now is equivalent to that whole area where those fence posts are.
That is correct. If you were to walk out there, you would see that.
So we can see the fence posts in the forefront of the picture.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the beach accreting sand, which is what the drift fence is supposed to do.
Right.
That's somewhat different than the nourishment coming off of the coastal bank that the revetment is supposed to
get it.
replace.
So the revetment used to be visible when it was initially put in
Mhm.
2011, just by us adding all that sand has, buried it. And we just feel that what it looks like today would be reasonable to not add sand while the engineer looks at the permitting and assesses the situation.
Janet? And then we'll come back to you, Greg.
Alex, can you put those pictures up again? Because I have a
Yes.
question about where his property line ends and where the neighbors begins. And it seems as if there is, see, to the left, near the last fence post that's on the left, there's a revetment that in that picture is not covered by any sand. But what about now?
If I could
Can
jump
you-
in, so that's the revetment in front of our properties. That's actually a cottage. You can kind of see there on the
So
left.
the one that's showing is your neighbor's?
Nope, that is ours.
That's
Um,
yours.
And if the permit says that the 425 cubic yards of sand is required to be put on the revetment that extends out, which is the new one essentially.
So
which is the
Alex,
one-
can you
and-
show the picture again, the pictures that were taken 2 days ago?
And one of them has a sign that says, I don't know if it's the other one that says private beach that will show you the property line. Yeah, you can see that little sign there.
And just, I'll add some clarification here. My understanding is that the nourishment is placed at the southern terminus of the revetment to protect against end scouring, correct?
Yep, that's what
Yeah.
it says on the permit. Yep.
So the nourishment in this case isn't along the entirety of the revetment. It's, it was conditioned to be put kind of in this one spot.
Correct.
And as Karen stated, this is not just due to nourishment, but to sand migrating. It doesn't look like it's accumulating on your neighbor's property.
I mean, if I'd have to, I feel like the height of the beach itself is, if you look at the stairs that go down all the properties, the stairs are under sand. So I haven't measured it myself, but it seems that the beach itself has become higher. It's just my personal opinion.
Thank you.
Bless you. Yeah, and I just want to reiterate, we're not against putting sand at all. We want to just look at the whole thing and reassess the permit. So.
So that's usually done through a more formal process
Yeah.
with engineers and a application for a change in the order of conditions.
Yep, which is exactly what we have started with this engineer in Mashpee. Just the timing was such that it was just a few weeks ago, this all rolled into place.
So, any other, I'm sorting stuff out in my head. Any other questions, Chuck? Anything?
When I look at this from an aerial view, it seems to me that the larger concern would be just making sure that you prevent bank collapse at the southern end. And I don't anticipate a lot of heavy winter weather coming back in anymore, but anything with very strong northwest winds may wash up over the top of that revetment, pull the back down some more. I'm, you know, I don't know what to say except I'd be dumping sand on it.
Sorry, I've got a frog in my throat. So I'm not sure that I would agree to not have the sand this year, because it seems to me that there's in some ways a natural flux here, that some years it accretes more, some years it depletes more, and that the amount of sand you're nourishing with is based on a formula based on a 30-year average of erosion. So a year or two of extra accretion doesn't mean that you're putting too much sand out on the revetment. It just means that it's in a period of flux. So some years you're in a deficit to the system by the amount of nourishment you put on, and some years you're picking up more on your beach, and then it averages out over time. So a year or two anomaly doesn't mean that it's not all going to balance itself out in the next storm or two.
I understand,
So-
and again, we're not against adding sand.
Mhm.
Like, if it's required and needed, 100%, we're all on board. It's been
Mhm.
beneficial to the town and our house, so it's just to kind of get through this permitting cycle and for this year.
Yeah, well, I would say unfortunately you didn't leave much time for that. That you don't actually have time to file for a change in the order of conditions, because the deadline to do that has already passed in relation to the April 15th date. But I'm kind of a no. I don't know what the rest of the commission feels here. If you want to speak up. Greg?
For me, I would really appreciate the engineer's report in order to vote affirmatively to do this. I just, I'm not an engineer, but without the report, I don't know how I can vote not to put the sand down.
Janet?
Yeah, I share Karen's and Greg's concerns. I was going to state a similar thing. That
Chuck? Go ahead, keep going, Janet.
it's okay.
Okay. Chuck?
Like I said, my concern is bank collapse. The southernmost of the structures along that particular piece of land doesn't look like it's more than 15, 18 feet away from the edge of the bank right now. The revetment has certainly cut back on the erosion, but like I said, any meaningful amount of washover in a big storm, and the next thing you know, it's going to be 5 feet from that home. I think that it's a good idea to put the sand in, and I would also want to hear something from the engineers that would change my mind.
I'd ask Mike, but he's mute tonight. But it sounds like the commission is in favor of having you nourish and then getting the engineer's reports to decide what will happen in the future.
Okay.
We appreciate your coming to talk to us, and I'm sorry that we
Your time.
can't manage to do what you want. Okay. And that is the end of the agenda. Coming up next week on April 3rd is our work session. I thought if we might talk a minute about the agenda. We're going to have dock regulations to look at. You guys should get that fairly soon. I think there was also, I'd like us to have a discussion on whether we would consider letting Alex sign off on ARs when the work is just replacement in kind. For simple stuff like we saw at 31 Longstreet, for example. Anything else that you guys are particularly interested in having a meaningful discussion about, or not so meaningful?
Are we supposed to be bringing a meal or something to pass?
Or a
I
snack?
think we've a little potluck. Yes, I think we've established that as a good tradition.
I think the dock regulations will be important for this work session. So I think, ensuring that we have enough time to have a thorough discussion about the drafted regulation, I think would certainly be in the commission's benefit.
I also want to mention that somebody has reached out about the kayak racks at Hemingway, and Alex is taking a look at that and following up with the Natural Resources Department on their annual report.
Correct.
So-
Yeah, I got out to the site yesterday and I sent Scott Richards an email regarding he's the harbor master regarding the annual report. So I think we should have that pretty soon.
Yeah, so the person who reached out would like to come and talk with the commission, so I thought we might invite him to come and talk to us at the end of our next meeting.
The April 4th meeting,
It's not April 4th.
or am I looking at the wrong, April 8th, excuse me.
Unless we're meeting on Friday, so
No,
the April 8th meeting,
April 8th, okay. Yeah,
if that seems okay with everybody.
so we'll have him. Do we want to have him speak during the public
I think during the other discussion,
discussion? Okay.
because he's a little upset, and I think it would be better to not start the meeting off with that, but to be able to give him a little more time at the end. Okay. Anything else from anybody? We still have a vacancy and a half. No, a vacancy and another one coming up. So please get out and pass the word around the community that we are looking for people who would be interested in serving on the commission. I think that's it for us. So we're under an hour, and if somebody would like to motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Okay, now all together, second.
Second,
Okay, all in favor? Janet,
yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Mike? Thumbs up from Mike, and I'm a yes. So thank you, everybody. I appreciate you. I
everyone.
think
Bye, everyone.
Good night.